We are live. Who needs a stinking countdown when all the news that's been happening? Zach, how you doing? But before I ask you how you're doing, uh, the stove, it was on low, might have been simmering on about nothing. And then what, at 11:30 last night,
It was on.
the heat turned on. And why is it always at the most random times? I don't know. We can't give you those answers, but we can tell you what it means moving forward. Now, Zach, I ask you, how you doing on this Thanksgiving Eve?
I'm I'm feeling better that the hot stove is starting to turn on, like you said. We're starting to see moves. Blake Snell signs what? 5 months, 4 months sooner than he did last offseason. Maybe we get a little bit of a move on with MLB offseason, but man, uh, fireworks, it feels like, are starting to come down in the MLB offseason. We got Soto stuff coming down to the wire. It looks like that decision is going to be made in the next week or so. Really just a lot going on.
Yeah, a ton, right? And so, for those that are new to the channel, right, Ryan Ripken Show, we go live every Monday and Thursday around 3 p.m., and we do game days on Sundays. But for people that know us, we cover baseball throughout the year. We're going to continue that through the season. And you know what? If you have heard of the name Ripken or haven't, that's okay. Doesn't offend me. But there are some ties, obviously, to Baltimore. So, we're going to cover a lot of the Orioles, right? We cover the Orioles during the season. Um, but we are going to enhance our coverage here. And for those, I just saw Steve saying, hey, late as usual. This one I got actually a great reason, but I can't tell you now. But hey, our Holy Shirts and Pants members, when this ends, I will drop a little nugget for you guys on what we have in store and what the Ryan Ripken Show is going to have exclusive offers and opportunities that are going to be taking place in a couple weeks. So I will let you guys know that soon. But we are going to have a hot stove every Wednesday. We're probably going to push it after the holiday to happy hour time, right? Because we know people want to be able to relax, maybe have a drink, and talk about their favorite things, but specifically baseball. So that's all I got right there. So you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Um, so let's just start with the icebreaker of the icebreakers, right? It was Blake Snell last night, which, Zach, I'm not surprised that the move happened, but being that Blake Snell is the first of the dominoes is interesting to me. Just 1 year removed from signing during spring training.
Yeah.
Now he is the first pitcher off the market, signs the massive deal with the Dodgers, talking about have a stable of starting pitchers. And look, the Dodgers are saying, hey, they're not messing around, man. The rich are getting richer. We're going to spend money. And Blake Snell is going to an already extremely talented Dodgers rotation.
I mean, the Dodgers rotation is absolutely insane. And a guy like Roki Sasaki, the young phenom coming over from Japan, apparently the Dodgers aren't out on that. So their rotation could get even more insane. It really is just one of those signings that the rest of the baseball world, you sit there and you're like, are you serious right now? You know, the Dodgers, this stacked Dodgers team, just went out and pretty much dominated the World Series. You go take it in 5, then you come out and you go, okay, let's go get the Cy Young runner-up or a Cy Young winner from 2 years ago. He's in Cy Young voting again this year. It really is just the rich get richer. And also rumors that they're not out on Soto. So the Dodgers are making it plain and simple. Hey, we are trying to win a lot of baseball games and win a lot of championships over the next few years.
Yeah, and you know what? For people getting mad at the Dodgers, can't hate on them, man. They're spending the money. They're literally they're putting their stones on the table and going, we're all in. And from a business standpoint, from where they are and who they acquired last offseason, Zach, with all the deferred money for Shohei Ohtani himself is an economy, right?
Yeah.
So they are making so much with his presence with the Dodgers already. They are now on a full cycle. So they go, you know what? We appreciate where we're at. We already know we have revenue coming internationally. Why don't we continue to try to be the best team for this next decade? So they're adding to it there. So Blake Snell, I think the bigger thing I take away from it, Zach, on top of this is I'm really curious of what this is going to do moving forward. What we do know for right now, I mean, look, the Dodgers are going to be the favorites again. Otani's going to pitch starting next year.
Yeah.
He's going to hit. Then you have Glasnow going to be in that rotation coming back. You're going to have to deal with now Blake Snell being added to that rotation. Now, it does probably mean that the departure for some of the Dodgers, like Walker Buehler being one of those guys, I don't see it happening,
Yeah.
Zach, but like it's not that it's out of the question, but it doesn't seem like that the writing might be on the wall for him when
Yeah.
it comes to that.
Yeah, I think he's gone. And I think it is. I even question if Sasaki goes there because it's hard for me if you're a young, up and coming, potential star, why you would want to kind of be pushed so far back down the rotation to where he would be like their sixth guy. So you're not even getting a regular rotation spot. It is one of those things where, yeah, with Walker Buehler, the writing's on the wall. He's going to be elsewhere. I know I've seen, interest. The Athletics showed interest in him. That was cool. Good for them. I'm proud of them. They're happy for their fan base. I feel like that was something I didn't expect to see. Also seen him connected to the Yankees. So a lot of teams, Buehler is one of the more intriguing arms out there because, yes, he's dealt with injury, and that's really hindered the last few years of his career. But when he's on the mound, when he's right and he's healthy, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think what people are going to be reminded of in a couple of ways, Zach, is I think a lot of the narratives from 2023 are going to be very different in 2024. And I actually think this Blake Snell move in general is one of the telling signs, right? Because when we look at teams and we look at players, whether you're coming back from injury, we've always talked about it takes time to get going, right? It takes time to get your feet wet. Walker Buehler being the example, right? Had his struggles during the regular season coming back, but man, in the postseason, the dude was on. The dude looked like Walker Buehler. That was the high leverage guy that could handle those big moments and could be a big starter. Felt like that. And obviously came in the relief role. But I think because of what happened to guys like Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, where Snell, it took him half the year to figure it out. And then the second half, he was very dominant. Jordan Montgomery never got it together. And for him, you could tell he blamed things what happened with Scott Boras. He got rid of him. Mm-hmm. So I think the trend now, Zach, is now that Blake Snell is signed, I wouldn't be surprised if pitchers start coming right off the shelves of the free agent market. And I do believe guys like Corbin Burns, Max Fried, the two specifically, their markets are going to get so damn hot here, and the sense of urgency from other teams is going to rise. I think we're going to find out where they're going to be before the new year. I think we're going to find out by the winter meetings. Maybe it'll happen at the winter meetings. That would be some spiciness. But I think that that's what we're going to go back to here, Zach. And I think that it's so important for these teams for getting guys ready. If you're going to have that type of investment in a player, you better make sure that they are ready to hit the ground running come February.
Yeah, and last year proved that. Like you were talking about with Snell and Montgomery, it's almost comical that Blake Snell is the first big name pitcher to sign after last year, where it was all off season. It was like anything with Snell. Snell wasn't even. He was focused on coaching his son more than he was on negotiating contracts at times. So for him to sign this early, it is kind of a sign, I think, of things to come where these pitchers especially are like, hey, we're not doing this sign in late February, sign in early March, try to hold out to get the best deal, because all it does is hurts our stock. Blake Snell is very lucky. Now, he is a damn good pitcher, but he is lucky that he was able to have the mental wherewithal to bounce back and become that dominant pitcher to go get this contract. Now you have a Jordan Montgomery who is not as fortunate. He struggled throughout the entire year. He's lucky he added player option, so he still got his money this year. But now this year becomes a major prove-it year. He's got to prove that he can do anything, or he might not even be getting a contract next offseason. So I think it's really proven that you put yourself as a player first behind the eight ball if you're holding out, especially these pitchers who are trying to get the last best deal, the extra few million at the end. It's not worth it because you see a guy like Jordan Montgomery. He went from, hey, this run in Texas made him one of the top coveted pitchers. And then you screw that up just a bit. You sign too late, can never really get it going in Arizona this year. And now it went from, hey, you're a guy who wanted a long-term deal, took a short-term deal to prove his worth more. Now you're trying to prove that, hey, I can still pitch in this league.
Yeah, and you know what? I think one of the worries was this offseason was the value going to continue to drop because Snell actually made more money then than what the offers were last year. Now with that contract, the other part of the reports coming out, there's no opt-outs in Snell's contract, right? So you're wondering if no opt-outs is going to mean, hey, if we're signing you to this, you are stuck with us moving forward. But on the other flip side of it, because the money's higher, Zach, it's also showing us, hey, teams are going, dude, if you are a bona fide stud and you have shown that you can go out there and consistently be good and be consistently available, there's value there. Now, with Snell being the first one, then the two that are popping up there are Corbin Burnes and Max Fried. So I want to paint this picture, though, for people. I've seen some comments already of going, hey, Baltimore, I thought new ownership was going to make a move because the report, Zach, saying the Orioles were in, the Yankees were in, the Red Sox on Blake Snell, and it didn't happen. And they go, what does that mean? Well, a lot of things, by the way, most teams don't want their offers leaked. Most teams don't, right? Yeah. So we're never going to truly get offers out there of how much did you offer this guy. That's number one. Number two, it's going to take two to tango. Just because the team has interest doesn't mean the player wants to necessarily go to that team. And look, we love Baltimore. You're from Baltimore. You know what the team means to the city. But a lot of these guys, you got to convince them, why do I come play in Baltimore? Why do I? If I can go closer to home or go to a bigger market, or then the deal is so good, I can't resist it, right? So Baltimore's going to have to figure out, can they convince a player to come to Baltimore? And then on top of that, if there's some reservation, is the money enough to persuade somebody? Because a guy like Max Fried is a West Coast guy, right? He just pitched in a big market in Atlanta. If he doesn't go out west and he stays east, how can you compete with then the offers in the market of Boston and New York? That's just the reality there. I love Max Fried, Zach. I know you do too. He'd be a great fit. But I think people need to understand there is going to be levels to trying to get some of these high guys and high-profile players to get to Baltimore. It's not just going to be, hey, the Orioles are going to throw out the money and the guys are going to automatically come. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and I know people say, but you have the players to convince them. You know, you have the young core. Yeah, but sometimes to some players that doesn't mean anything. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, you can go a lot of places and have an opportunity to win that are, like you said, maybe a bigger market, maybe closer to home. It's hard, you know, if you're trying to sign a guy like Blake Snell, who has made it pretty apparent over his career that he likes being close to home out west. That's why I went to the Giants last offseason. He signed that deal over there, obviously with the Padres, and then now back out in LA. A team like the Orioles, if he is dead set on, hey, I want to be close to home out west, no matter how much money the Orioles would have had to offer him, probably he's getting like 36 average a year. You're going to have to throw him 45, 50 million a year just to be like, hey, I know you don't want to be, you know, this side of the country, but hey, it just doesn't always work. Like you said, just because you put in a competitive offer and you have a young core doesn't mean that these guys are going to be like, Baltimore, if it's something where, hey, I want to stay out west or I want to go to this big market, it takes two to tango. Like you said, it's not just, hey, we need a ace pitcher. There are 4 ace pitchers on the market. We'll just throw money at all of them and one of them is going to pick us. You know, it's more to that.
Yep. And now the fact that one of those big pitchers is off the market already, at least in one case, people can go, wait, the Dodgers were real interested in Corbin Burnes, which hypothetically they could still go after him. But if you're looking at how many starters that they have, it wouldn't make sense, even though we've seen if you were a Baltimore Orioles fan, you know that starting pitchers drop like flies. So you are aware of what can happen. It doesn't feel like that's the fit anymore. So could that mean the reunion and Corbin was in Baltimore and he enjoyed his time? Sure. But I'll tell you what, it's about looking towards the future, and players then are going to have to be at a crossroads of going opportunity, money, and then also then when we're talking about going off of opportunity, of the expectation of what they think the deal will entail, meaning what are they going to expect from the team over that duration of the contract? Are you competing for World Series? Are you going to be in a place where you can continue to brand yourself and help then not only your own career, but then what you want to accomplish, which could be their final contracts? Corbin Burns, 30 years old, you get a 5-year deal and you want to keep pitching? You could. Yeah. But you can't expect that you're going to have that second deal. So there's a lot of thoughts to go into it, which then kind of leads Zach into this part. And I know we're going to answer some questions here because there's about Nathan Eovaldi talking about, Jordan Montgomery, would the D-backs trade him after the owner was like, yeah, I that's on me. Shouldn't have signed the guy. First off, Zach, imagine your employer's like, you know what? You're still on my team.
That's
I don't want you here.
Crazy. I just couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine like being in that situation. When he came out and said that, I was like, you have to trade him. You have to release him. Like, there's no way you can he accepts the player option, then you just openly call and you're like, I'm just going to be honest, guys. I know everyone's pointing fingers. This was my fault. I should have never done this. And then as a player, you're like, thanks for the confidence. Like, I just lie to the media and be like, oh, no, we have full faith in Jordan. At least help his trade value. What's the trade value now? You just came out and said, damn, that was a mistake. Don't want him. Not great.
It's wild. It's wild to me where we're in a day and age. Hey, you're the owner or you're your own damn person. You can say what you want, right? Yep. There's no doubt in that. But it's one thing to try to light a fire in a player, and say, hey, it wasn't good enough. We expect more. It's another thing to be like, well, okay, are you really wanted with our organization? And you can tell that around sports. There's a difference there. Trying to light a fire and actually wanting that person to be in your building are two different things. So let's just say then, Zach, in this case, the Orioles, you don't get Corbin Burns or Max Fried. I'm seeing the name Nathan Eovaldi pop up quite a bit, which honestly, I think that guy, secondary tier, I know you really loved him at the deadline. So did I, of being like, man, hey, Texas, why don't we bring him on over here? He'd be a great fit. I think he would. Checks the boxes. Veteran pitcher, knows how to pitch, going to be a cheaper deal, and then adds a veteran presence with an already, more experienced staff. Dean's coming back. Eflin's back. If you add Eovaldi with a young Grayson Rodriguez, then the reinforcements hopefully are back at the end of next year or middle of the season. It's a good place to be. I think that would be one player Oriole fans would be very happy about.
Yeah, and I think he actually reminds me so much of a Zach Eflin type deal in the trade aspect, because he's a guy that probably, if he gets signed, a lot of people, it would be 50-50. A lot of people, like I know myself and you, would be ecstatic because we know what he brings to the ball club. We know what he does in the playoffs. He's a playoff psycho. The dude just hits another level when it hits October. He's a Zach Eflin type in the way of people will probably be iffy on it. They'll be like, okay, not the flashy move we were looking for. But then suddenly, halfway through his tenure here, after, a few months, few starts, you start looking around like people did Eflin, go, wait a second, this is a damn good pitcher that now gives us an opportunity. Because remember, people, before Zach Eflin started taking off in Baltimore, his first 5 starts, when they first got him, people were like, this can't be the only pitching move. This isn't. And then by the end, it was the argument of, do you pitch Zach Eflin game 1 of the playoffs? So things happen so fast, obviously, with judgments on moves. But I think Eovaldi's that kind of under the radar signing that doesn't get all the flashy headlines. It doesn't make the books suddenly say, oh, the Orioles are going to make the run. But like you said, it's a veteran presence. in the rotation, a guy who knows how to win, and you add him with guys like Dean, like Eflin. You get the reinforcements back, hopefully, at the end. You hope that Rogers, gets it together. You have young guys coming up in Povich and McDermott. So you're in a nice spot if you can get a veteran like Eovaldi, even though I know people will be more, you didn't get the ace.
Yeah, ideally, the guy that everyone wants back would be Corbin, or you get a Max Fried, right? But don't underestimate what the value of getting a veteran guy to your staff that has experience, right? That's the one thing for the Orioles is having more big league guys with more experience with the team or in the bigs that can help this team, help them grow, help them evolve. Those things matter. Now, I'll say this then, Zach, since the Dodgers got one of their guys. You got Snell. It's no secret that the Yankees and the Red Sox are going to be aggressive for a top arm. And whether it's going to be a free agent or trade, it looks like it could happen here, but that very well could dictate what happens for Baltimore. So I want to talk about that point in a second. But leading into that conversation, John Morosi talked about them. Well, the Red Sox are very interested. The Red Sox are looking for that top arm. They're looking to go spend. They're still in on Soto. Reports are coming out that they could be more of a dark horse now of landing Soto. Yeah. But if they can't land the pitching free agent that they want, they have the means to go get a top arm via trade. So let's play that clip of John Morosi talking about Boston.
Give us a couple of quick hitters. One on Garrett Crochet, latest on him, and then Nathan Eovaldi.
Yes. So Garrett Crochet, trade-wise, pay really close attention to the Boston Red Sox. They're the team that they have the prospects, especially if they don't get a Burns or if they don't get a Fried, and we'll see how things play out with Juan Soto. You think about the Red Sox and how disappointing this past season was. They need to make a massive move here. And if it's not going to be in free agency, if they don't get Soto, then pay really close attention on a possible Garrett Crochet trade. They've got the prospects to get it done. And remember, the White Sox, if they make this move, I was told again this week, there's been some reports about Willie Abreu possibly being part of this conversation. I was told the White Sox are so far away from what they perceive to be their competitive window that they would prefer to get prospects who have not even debuted yet in the major league, whether it's an Anthony or higher or a Cam.
So right there, you're hearing that the Red Sox, they want to be aggressive. They want a guy, but they're also very equipped to go get Garrett Crochet. And look, I think the Orioles are in that same boat, Zach. I honestly would not be surprised whatsoever if the Orioles don't land the big name that they want. And we're talking about because it's a destination. Can you get a deal and for someone to sign? Why wouldn't you, though? Why wouldn't you then go acquire a guy that has some team control, which then you would probably have to extend, but you bring him in and then you get the right first to do that. And I think that's a very serious situation, but Boston is going to get a guy no matter what, one way or another. And I think that's the emphasis here is that starting pitchers more than ever right now, Zach, good ones. They're not going to let them walk by this year, which would be it would be rough for Orioles fans, but this is the reality of the AL East. Boston's very close to being a contending team. If they get some pieces this offseason, they're right back in the race of being one of those teams to go back to a World Series.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, they're bigger markets, the Yankees, the Red Sox. So the Orioles have to compete with them not only on the field in the AL East, but when it comes to these big prize possession pitchers, like the Corbin Burns, like the Garrett Crochets, like the Max Frieds, the guys that are on the market, the Yankees and Red Sox aren't sitting there going, oh, well, Corbin was in Baltimore last year. We'll see if they want to get him back first, and then if not, we'll go offer him. They want to take him. They saw the impact he did in Baltimore. They saw, if you think Orioles fans were watching that 8 innings of 1 run in the playoffs, so were other teams. They saw that as well. They saw that as a frontline guy who can help you win when it matters the most. So, like you said, the teams like the Red Sox, they are right there. they are right there. They had a ton of injuries last year, and they overcame a lot and were still very competitive throughout. They're a young, fun team that are only going to keep getting better. They want to go add guys like Corbin Burns, like a Max Fried type. And then, we even talked about Juan Soto. These guys are aggressive. The Red Sox are another team that the Orioles have to be aware of that, hey, if you're not careful, if you let they go and have a big offseason, it's not just the Yankees you're competing with. You got to beat the Red Sox in a very competitive AL East. It just makes it that much harder.
Yeah, and for Boston, they got a lot of young pieces as far as they had players that missed time. Jarren Duran, like low key, we had Kyle Corwin on the 3-0 take on with us, and he was joking about Jarren Duran being MVP. As far as wins above replacement and what he meant to Boston, he was their MVP of the team.
Without a doubt.
And he blossomed into being one of the best outfielders in baseball. Then you're going to have a guy like Tristan Casas who's going to be healthier. They're building something over there, and that something is, they might have been dormant for a couple of years, but they're ready to awaken and they're ready to make some moves. So respect for them, but this is a scenario that, at least for Oriole fans, you're going to have to look at. Yeah. Can you acquire someone via trade? Do you get a secondary guy in the market like an Evaldi, or are you able to go get that frontline guy like Corbin, like Fried? But personally, Zach, and I know this is my opinion, I have a hard time seeing Corbin or Max make their way back to Baltimore. I hope Corbin does. I hope I'm wrong, but my gut is telling me he will not be back. That's just the feeling. Fried, you would have to really convince him to be here. And again, there's nothing that the Orioles have done to say, why wouldn't you want to be here? It's just, this is the reality of what it was. And quite frankly, when the Orioles, if they can convince one guy and they have some winning to go with it moving forward, and they can convince that one of those superstar players to join, you're going to see more and more of that moving forward. But for right now, that's the competition here, because the Red Sox will be back. The Yankees were the World Series runner-ups. Baltimore, and this is the crazy thing, Zach, I don't want this to happen. It's just the reality, saying as it is. If Baltimore underperforms next year, there's going to be more changes. So that's also a thing to consider here. We'll see. I do think the trade component is very interesting. I almost have a weird feeling Crochet could be an Oriole.
Yeah, and how do you feel about that? How does he concern you about his previous usage, his previous arm injuries? Is he someone that you would give up prospects for?
Probably at this point. Last year, no, with what you were trying to accomplish. Everyone's going to have some baggage going along with their arm. You're just going to have to be comfortable with that. I think it was a really good step in the right direction last year. I would be comfortable. But if you're talking about durability, the two guys that, that's why Corbin and Fried are getting a lot of attention. People are banking on their longevity. Yeah. I think that's the balance here. Longevity, you've seen it. Knocking on wood, Corbin continues to do that, but he's, what you're getting every single year, and he hasn't had those quote unquote setbacks. So that's how I'd feel with that. I think Crochet, I'd be willing, if I'm Baltimore, to make that move. I think I would. And if you do make that move, then you can address your outfield position or whatever you'd have to give up. My guess is you would have to give up a outfield prospect or two, and a bat and maybe an infield prospect. So, so it's what I got. What do you think?
It's, obviously my biggest concern with Crochet is the fact that he's been a starting pitcher for like 7 months. And, he obviously extremely dominant 7 months. It's a stretch that when he was on and, really before they started winding him down for the year, he was the best pitcher in the American League in baseball at times, and just pure dominance. So if you can never stray away or shy away from being like, hey, this guy would help the team. If the Orioles go out and make that move, whether it works out or not, what it's a sign is, it's a sign that, hey, they're going to go do what they think it takes to go help win a championship. We saw it last year with Corbin Burns. People were like, hey, is this front office all in? Is this front office really trying to make something happen? You go out and get what eventually would be one of the finalists for the Cy Young. Or it's at the point where, yes, like you said, there's baggage, there's concern, but there's going to be that with every player. So while I'm not 100% sold on, hey, this is foolproof plan, nothing could go wrong, could go wrong very quickly, but it's a nice sign as a fan and as someone who watches every game that, hey, this front office, if they do make that move, they're serious about winning and they are trying to do whatever it takes to get over that hump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand for fans, you want to see that your team, you're hearing about, all right, we're going to be competitive. We want to continue to move forward. And I get it. But there's always a game within the game, and there's always different situations that you're going to have to overcome to prove that. And the other part of it, too, when you're talking to like a team like Baltimore, you're at a point now where your younger guys are getting a little bit older, so they're getting experience, but you still have young players that need to get reps. But you have to decide, do those players get reps or do you bring in somebody else? But it can't be in between there. I think that's the part that you and I have always talked about is you got to make a commitment to a guy or to a player. Like for Colton Cowser, which I was so happy for him this year, you needed to figure out what you had with him. He played his way into playing almost every day. Obviously matchup based, but he was an everyday guy. Yeah. And you learned what you had. So I think for Baltimore, these prospects at some point aren't going to have the same value, just like with every team. But the interesting thing with Crochet is that they don't want a team, they want players that aren't ready yet because the White Sox don't think they're going to be competitive for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference there. And so that'd be a deeper dive that we'll have to figure out here, Zach. But for now, first moves down, and I cannot wait to see what the other move is going to be. The next biggest one is obviously we're talking about pitcher sense of urgency. As soon as the Juan Soto deal's done, we're going to see the bats start flying off, meaning
it's going to be
Santander.
Yeah, it's going to be Teoscar, Santander, Jerickson, Profar, all those top outfield bats. The second Juan's done within a week, I would not be surprised if every single one of them's on a team because it's simply waiting out the Juan Soto sweepstakes. If you're a guy like Anthony Santander, like Teoscar Hernandez, why wouldn't you? A team is going to lose the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Most likely a team like the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Mets, or the Yankees, three of them are going to lose the Juan Soto sweepstakes, which means they're going to have money that they're going to want to use to go get a big bat, a player to play that position. And they're willing to spend more money because, hey, we just lost out on Juan Soto. We don't want to leave here empty-handed. We are not in the position to suddenly not come away with a big bat. So I think that is when you see suddenly Juan Soto signs and a week later, we're sitting here with Profar, Teoscar, and Anthony Santander all somewhere. Which Jerickson Profar, he's a guy who I've seen people kind of put to the Orioles as like if Santander leaves. What are your thoughts on that?
With Profar?
Yeah.
I think what was really cool for him this year, obviously you go out and have a career year. You go out and show the value of what you're capable of doing. But then people are wondering, all right, is this something that can be successful moving forward? So I'm really curious of what that market's going to look like for him. Someone's going to sign him because they have a belief that he's going to continue this on, right? But it's to what extent are we going to see that same type of player? And if you're going to leave San Diego and go somewhere else, can you fit in there and have the same success? It's easier said than done to say, hey, you sign a contract, you go somewhere else, you still have the same results, right? How many times have we seen that not be the case? And for Profar, it has taken him time. I mean, look, Zach, I'm even looking up his numbers overall. He was trying to find it in Colorado in 2023, hitting 236, right?
Yeah.
He goes to San Diego, gets 44 at bats in 2023 and hits 295 in that. So you're like, okay, that's a good stretch. And then he plays 158 games this year and hits 280. But prior to that, he had one season, and it wasn't even a full season. It was COVID, which, 56 games, where he hit 278. So there's not a lot of consistent reps to look on with him. But what I do like is he changed up his workout routines. He talked about how he wanted to try to have his body feeling good so he could go out there and be effective. Playing 158 games is very valuable to me. Very valuable. You're available. And in that case, he's a guy that had some pop. So I like it. I think the question is, for any team that's going to sign him,
you have to have faith in him that he's going to continue.
Do you believe that at age right now, he is 31, just like me, going into the next year? Are you thinking Profar's figured it out that he's going to have this stretch of years now that he's going to perform at that level, or was this the peak? Was this the peak year? So I think that's kind of the point that has to be. So, Zach, I'm seeing this. We want to answer some questions. Josiah, I appreciate you. I got to be honest, I don't get the Soto love. He's a big bat and an absolute liability in the field. He's not worth what everyone's saying he's going to get. Look, I don't know what happened with his defense. He was my teammate when the Nats and the minors and got to see him. His mobility or his outfield ability has definitely decreased. Now, he can throw a runner out. He can make some good throws. But as far as his angles to the ball and his ability to track, it's off. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better, Zach. I mean, he was the joke of a lot of memes and things throughout social media, but it is the bat, and the bat's generational.
Yeah,
it absolutely is. Let's put it this way, the New York Yankees don't win the American League East without Juan Soto, even with the year Aaron Judge had.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, the Aaron Judge was the best batter on that team, but Juan Soto was the most valuable. He set up that entire team. He's one of those guys where just simply placing him in a lineup changes the season of 3-4 guys around him just because of his presence, because you can't pitch around the guy ahead of him. You can't, suddenly the guy behind him's always hitting with men on base, always has all opportunities. So he's a type of bat where, it's just, the glove isn't there, but that bat you're paying, it doesn't even just help him. It benefits so many people around him in the lineup, just him being there, that's why he's getting the money. It's not just his impact on, hey, he hits really well. It's now you have to pitch to the guy in front of him. The guy behind him is suddenly more valuable because he's got guys on base. It's just, it helps everything.
And right now he's not even entered his prime technically yet as a hitter. That's the terrifying part. So why he would get the money is because they'd probably try to sign him to a 10-year, 12-year deal, maybe even more. And that's why they're banking on that bat of being this prolific piece for a team. Now, imagine you're able to plug in 35 home runs, 100-plus RBIs, and whatever else, because that's what he's averaged the last 2 years. But even when he was younger, 110 RBIs, 95 RBIs. He had some struggles when he went from Washington to San Diego, but his bad years could be someone's career years. So that's why people want Soto. And also, you're talking about clutch factor, the big moments.
Yeah.
Look what he did in the World Series for the Nationals, and then look what he did in the CS against the Guardians.
Yeah.
You need big moments. So
it's what he does.
Yeah. And not every team's going to be in on that, Zach. Like, enjoy life. Appreciate it. I think Soto's one of those superstars, but if I can get 75% of the production for 45% of the cost, that's where I'm looking. That's where most teams are looking.
Yeah.
It's the teams that are like, hey, I don't care. Mets, maybe they're saying the Red Sox, Dodgers, I don't care. I get that piece. I'm cool with it. I want that piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Orioles were never in on it, because you got to evaluate what you have in the pipeline that you're going to have to re-sign. And also, you want to look for, hey, could 2 or 3 guys turn into something instead of putting all of your eggs in one basket?
Exactly. Because that is the risk. It's all your eggs in one basket. It's just like, I'll say it. If the Yankees don't re-sign Juan Soto, the Juan Soto trade was a failure. And, people can talk about, well, you went out and you went to the World Series. Yeah, but you were hoping you'd re-sign him. And the biggest part that hurts Yankees fans is you gave up Michael King in the deal, who is now a Cy Young caliber talent. So, when we talk about some teams are like, hey, that's worth it. The Yankees said it's worth giving up Michael King, knowing what these guys can become in this deal, because we're willing to take that risk that this is the piece. Now, if that piece, they don't win a World Series and that piece goes elsewhere, now you're looking back on it a lot differently. If you're able to re-sign him, it's worth it. Then it's worth it. If you're not, people look back and go, well, you had your opportunity. You had to win the World Series that year.
Yep. And so it's, again, each team has a different sense of what they're trying to accomplish, right? And I know it kind of even goes back, and this is, when we talk about trying to acquire a pitcher instead of acquiring a big bat, what are you trying to get out of it? And is your goal short term or are you looking long term? So, like for the Orioles, for instance, when we talked about it, on the flip side, it's okay, if you went and got a big bat at the deal, what were you willing to give up? And then same thing with Scooble, which still would be absolutely insane for the Tigers to give him up, especially now. Like they shouldn't. That's their guy. They have turned the corner. But you have to be okay of giving up a guy that you think could be a big leaguer for 10 to 15 years for how much success, or are you trading that for one? Some teams are that desperate. Baltimore, I guess I could put them in that category where they could be considered desperate, but they don't want to sell out for 1 year. They want to try to be competitive for the next decade, because the Orioles haven't been competitive for a full decade in 3 or 4 decades. So, I mean, there's the trade-off that you want. Everyone wants a World Series, but it's an understanding the conversation of what you can get. What is the value? And what are you willing to sacrifice? And I think it's a great point, Zach. Yankees won this. It was all worth it. And in some cases, people can say we're back in the World Series. That makes it feel worth it.
Yeah.
But for New York, if you don't win the World Series, all you did was you slayed the dragon, and for Aaron Boone to finally get over the hump to get back to the World Series for New York for the first time in 15 years. But last time I checked, Yankees and their fans, I've heard them count championships. I don't hear them count pennant banners.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there for the Yankees, at least, where you said, hey, that was great. But you said you just gave up a really key piece. Now, San Diego, now that looks like a team and Michael King could be a part of their team for years and years to come.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how it all unfolds. And we have a couple more thoughts here, Zach, because, you mentioned Soto. And you know what? Before we get into the rest of the conversation, I want to thank again our sponsors at Adams Jeep of Maryland up in Aberdeen, 5 minutes from the Ironbird Stadium. My favorite part of trying to upload this thing is always.
We'll see if we get this time.
Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, do. Nope. There we go. Adams Jeep of Maryland right there. Hey, look, they've been an OG sponsor for us on the show from the beginning. They believed in us. And if you guys are looking for a new vehicle or a used vehicle, if you go up to Adams Jeep in Aberdeen and you tell them that the Ryan Ripken Show sent you, and you tell Chuck or Matt that Rocco sucks, they'll give you $500 in gas money with the purchase of the vehicle. But then on top of it, Zach, they are in the customization business. So Adams Extreme Motorsports is opened up there, which means you can customize any car. It does not have to be a Jeep. Toyota, Honda, Chevy, whatever you need, they are your go-to guys, and they have a deal going. You get 3 tires. They get the last one, the 4th one, for just $1. So go check out Adams Jeep of Maryland up there. We appreciate everything they've done for us. And, tell Chuck and Matt we say hello. Now back to a little bit of conversations here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Adams Jeep. Beep, beep. I'm a Jeep. Going back a little bit, and this is the thought that keeps running through fans' heads. I know it's run through mine. And where is it? I just had it here. Do. Rick and I are on a similar wavelength.
Yeah, it just makes too much sense, especially if they lose Soto.
And I guess the question goes, but people want Cody Bellinger or Anthony Santander, and who can handle it better? You know?
Yeah. I would rather, this is going to sound, I would rather New York get Tony. I just think Bellinger is one of those random, like, superstars that just, he puts on the pinstripes and he just accepts the villain role and, like, just becomes this. I also really like, this is a horrible situation because I love Cody Bellinger. I also love Tony. So would prefer neither go there, but it seems kind of, if Soto's gone, one of those two will be in pinstripes next year.
It feels like they would make a move. Now, this is the part with Oriole fans, and just so people know, why the hell did the Orioles re-sign these guys? It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So even when they went to him, they were going to have to make this deal before the season started, because once Tony started to go on a bender, he wants to test the market because you got to see what your value is, and he rightfully should. So that was Tony and even Corbin. They're like, hey, we're at this point now. Appreciate that you want us back, but we're going to test the market. That's just the reality of it. So for those that are going out there being, I can't believe the Orioles let him walk, this is a player decision just as much of anything in this circumstances. So I want people to understand that when we're talking about it. So, but for Tony though, some team is going to pay for him, and they might overpay for him, Zach. And I love what Tony has done. I love what he's embodied. I love the fact that he's a Rule 5 guy where people weren't expecting much, and he transformed to be the best offensive producer for the Orioles over the last 3 seasons. And he's going to get paid, and he can make an impact on a contending team. But because of all those reasons, he might price himself out of Baltimore. Yeah. So that's where the whole conversation will continue to go. And so, but it's going to start with the Soto move. And the more and more, we did a breakdown of Teoscar Hernandez last time, Zach. I'm finding it harder to believe that Teoscar would make it to Baltimore. But again, it depends on the Soto sweepstakes. If Soto goes to LA, or Soto goes somewhere else, what do teams value? And I think that's what we're going to have to figure out here. And for the Orioles too, they're going to have to make a decision on if they can bring a guy back or allow a guy like Heston Kjerstad to get everyday reps. That's a decision they're going to have to make.
And let's kind of talk about, would you see it as a bad thing if the Orioles don't bring back a Tony, get a Teoscar, get a Bellinger? If they do say, hey, we want to roll out there with Cowser playing, with Mullins playing, with Kjerstad playing, and we want to see what these young bats can do. Obviously, Mullins is a veteran, but would you see that as, this team is, because it's a risk. It's a big risk, because now that's a lot of production that you're asking to come from Heston Kjerstad to make up for Tony. But do you think that is a option where you see them going, hey, we didn't get the guys we wanted, the big time bats, we're just going to let these guys play out and see how they do?
Well, I wonder it, but I'm thinking about this now from a right-handed bat perspective, right? They are not going to have that with, if Tony leaves as a switch hitting component, you're going to lose a right-handed element in the outfield. You don't have Austin Hayes, obviously, who is a free agent, but I don't expect him to come back to Baltimore. No. But you're looking at it. Cowser's going to play. He should. Cedric's going to play. He should. Right field is a left-handed bat if you put Heston out there. So personally, Zach, I think for the love of it, I need to know what I have with the guy. That's just me. So if that's the case, I'd want him to play. But if your decision is made up, where you're going, Heston is not going to be our everyday guy, I am looking at a trade package and I'm looking to go get a valuable asset outside of there. And if that's the case, then I will be very aggressive for a guy like Teoscar. This is, again, if Tony doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And I saw them mention Kike Hernandez, man. I think both of us are on a similar wave of it's a utility guy, can play the outfield, can play the infield. That would be a good role. And maybe in that case, it's the only way I can see it is they have a utility right-handed bat that can go out and play the outfield, or they could play matchups for a guy like Heston, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of how it seems. But I would be surprised if Baltimore had 3 left-handed outfielders as their everyday guys, even though I'd love to see Heston get a run.
Yeah. And while we're talking about young, I'm not going to say talking about young outfielders, but I've seen the stuff because it includes the outfield. A lot of people, I've seen the rumors, or not even rumors, just kind of fans talking about moving Jackson Holliday to the outfield. What are your thoughts? Is that even a thought process to you? Or are you like, hey, just keep him, he's an infielder? Or do you think there is some value in seeing if he could play the outfield?
There is value, but if you make that decision, that's where he's playing for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
I don't like. Should I be open about some certain things? Should I be open about?
Might as well.
Might as well. Okay. I'm objective with all of this, and people know this. When they're going through the minors, Jackson and Gunnar and those types of guys are not, or we're not playing the position fully. So what I mean by that is Gunnar Henderson, when he came up, he was playing a lot of short, but he wasn't playing an entire season at short. He was splitting between third and short. And you can say, well, that doesn't, it's a position. You're a professional. You should know how to play it. Gunnar's first year of playing shortstop for a full season was at the highest level in the big leagues with the most expectations on the team in the last 20 years. Jackson Holliday, number 1 prospect. He was splitting time between short and second. He has not played a full season at second base at any level. And now you're saying that's going to be your position in the big leagues? I would rather say this is where you're going to be of all of 24. I want you at second. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll put you in the outfield. I don't want to have the merry-go-round of figuring out, can you play another position? Jackson's versatile. He's a hell of an athlete. I already have the answer on that. He can play outfield. I already know that.
Yeah.
But for reps-wise, I want those guys to continue to work on being infielders. If that's your infield of the future, Zach, you need to let them learn there. And you got to live with the growing pains of it because that's the only way they're going to reach their potential. So I think that's so undervalued or understood. Yeah. Like when we look back, like think about that. Gunnar Henderson, his first year of playing a full year of shortstop was in the big leagues.
Yeah. This year.
Last year, he played some games at short, but not a 162 where you're our guy.
Yeah.
That matters. Now, the one, ace in the hole here, Jorge Mateo.
Yeah, I was just going to bring him up.
Does help. And I love what, Jorge is going to fit into a great role with all of that. But again, it's going to come down to how do you want to develop Jackson? Mm-hmm. If you wanted to be your infielder of the future, you got to let him play. The only guy to me that can handle both is Westberg. Because he's just a different. He's a little bit older, a little bit understanding. Other than that, Zach, yeah, I think they got to learn the position. And personally, I want Westberg to be a third. Keep him there. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but I want him to stay at third.
Do you think it's going to be another merry-go-round for Westberg this year?
I think So what's interesting when you look at other teams, not a lot of them shuffle as much as what Baltimore does.
Yeah.
I think Westberg is going to play second at times next year, no doubt about it. But I would love for him to just play third. I'd love for him to say, hey, he's our everyday third baseman, and let him be established with that. Just same thing with Mateo. Mateo, you're going to be our up-the-middle guy. You're going to spell Gunnar at short, but you're going to play second. Yeah, I like roles. I like knowing what you're doing. Wasn't that a big point of contention with the Yankees when Jazz came over Glaber was talking about he doesn't want to play third. Do you remember that correctly?
Oh, yeah.
So now Jazz was open to it. He never played third, right? He wasn't a third baseman. So he was open to that. But everything else on that infield, guys are creatures of habit. Guys like to be in their same spot. Versatility matters, but your versatility only matters if it doesn't impact your ability to be a solid defensive player. That's where I look at it. As soon as that's compromised, I'd rather the focus go into one side. Am I making sense with that?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's just – and it's one of those things where, unfortunately for Westberg, fortunately and unfortunately, he's proven he can do both. He's proven that, hey, even if you swing me around and you're having me play two different positions almost every other day, I'm still going to produce at both. So unfortunately, he's given the Orioles that option of, hey, we can spell different guys on different days because Jordan Westberg, we can pretty much plug him anywhere, and he's going to play above average defense for us.
Mm-hmm. And again, there is value to that. Like, go back and look at some of the history of players. And that's why, like, Ben Zobrist was that do-it-all guy, right? And such a valuable player, a big reason why the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah.
Kike Hernandez, as an example, last year, his versatility allowed him to have the big postseason that he did. Rojas goes down, Kike is inserted, he can play multiple positions. Then he goes on a bender, and then you can't take him out of the lineup because he can play on multiple positions. It does matter. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about trying to solidify your defense, and what we saw last year was the Orioles defense no longer was a strength of the team, I want to have that defense strengthened. I want to understand that when we're put in a position, it needs to feel like it's going to be an advantage for us, not a disadvantage. Because one thing that's going to harm the Orioles moving forward, and it's any baseball team, is if you give teams extra opportunities, it's going to bite you in the ass.
Yep.
So, and especially in the American League, and you're moving that damn wall in, you give an extra error in Baltimore, and that wall's moved in, someone's going to take advantage of it. Same thing on the road. So, and it's great. It's great. And also, like, Alan, I just seen this about J.J. Hardy. I'm glad hearing that with Jackson, but that's even more emphasizing my point that Jackson needs to just be there every day.
Let him play.
Let him play there. Let him play there. And it's, isn't it kind of interesting, Zach? Like, we have aspirations here to talk more nationally, right? We want to be able to branch out, talk more about all teams because we feel like we do understand the nuances of what could happen and why we think, the transitions of, like, for instance, why the Milwaukee Brewers were able to continue their run of talent with a new manager and trading away Corbin Burns and how they're able to evaluate and play winning baseball. I'd love to talk about the Brewers.
Yeah.
But don't you have to try to get good at something in one place at one time? We love the Orioles, Ravens. So we talk about the one market, right?
Yeah.
Get better at this one thing, build credibility there. And if it doesn't work out, you audible or you build off of it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with players. Get really good at what you need to be good at.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's talk about if it's not going to work out. Oh, hey, you know what? Hey, starting pitchers, when you come in here, are they saying, hey, we want to make you a reliever first, or we want to see how long you can be a starter?
How long can you be a starter?
Ride that out until you can't.
Yeah.
Then you make a move. So, and you know what, Joey? I'm glad someone's saying it, baby. We're bringing it back.
Those are fine. Blake Snell gone. Those are fine.
Should we get the shirts this year?
We have to.
Holy shirts and pants. The O's are fine.
Holy shirts and pants. The O's are fine. Last thing I just really want to talk about was the Roki Sasaki. So he's going to sign during the international free agent period. So that's after July or January 1st, correct?
I believe so. I'll check the time.
Yeah, but it's I know a lot of people have talked about the Orioles being connected because Sasaki could be open to going to smaller markets. I know that's been out there. He's really kind of into development and how teams are developing players and stuff. So just kind of what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a guy just more? I mean, I think we're too far out to say, he's going this place or that place. The Dodgers kind of seem like the front runner. Is he a guy after what we saw Yamamoto do last year that you think if a team, let's just hypothetically say the Orioles, get him, that you can rely on him to be a frontline guy?
So you want me to answer Sasaki? Could he be coming to Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, I
Would
think
it
it's a possibility. 23 years old, actually just turned 23 a few weeks ago. So it's just I've been saying I'm more willing to talk about the fact that people are assuming that this guy's going to come over and be okay. He's an ace. Like you sign him. You just got Yamamoto. You just got a Shohei type player. You got a manga. And it's a lot of pressure. I've seen people, even Orioles fans, being like, "Oh, if we get him, he's your ace. You get another guy, we're good." It's like, can't necessarily assume that it's just going to translate, especially right away.
You can pencil it in.
Yeah.
Potential there. You know me. You buy the potential. You buy the ceiling of what the player can be, but you got to understand there's going to be growing pains. And you don't know what variation of that player you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So for that, I would be ecstatic if the Orioles got it. I still think the Dodgers connection out there, a West Coast team, would still be very appealing to Sasaki. There's familiarity, there's connections there. But a player that, people got to understand, Japan is one of the best baseball leagues in the world, or countries in the world as well. But that league it's still taking another step. It's a different brand of how you play over here, different hitters. And now this is where everyone goes to play Major League Baseball, MLB. There's going to be a learning curve with every player. Some are ready automatically. Some are going to have to learn that they have to make adjustments. And so that's where we don't know what's going to happen with Sasaki. But stuff-wise, oh my God, incredible. And every team should be interested in that dude.
Yeah.
Every team should be interested in him. It's just going to come down to Sasaki of what's a good price and where do you want to see your career go?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to have to find out, Zach, is where does Sasaki want his career to go? Does he want to be in the spotlight with a big market team like LA? Could it be out there with, just saying it was the Padres or the Yankees? Are you ready to handle that? Because, another thing we realize is not every player likes the spotlight.
Yeah. Not everyone wants to be in pinstripes or in LA under the bright lights, sold out every single night, all the pressure on 24/7. Fans turn on you the second you make a mistake. Some guys don't like that.
No. And you know what I was thinking? And this is why I'm so interested with like certain cases of players. Like Cody Bellinger to me was one of them, right? Where Cody was all-star out in LA, MVP, amazing. All of a sudden, like what happened? What the hell happened, right? I don't think Cody gets back on track if he went straight to the New York Yankees or a place where there's immense pressure. Yeah. Not saying that the Cubs isn't a big market at all. It's not what I'm saying. But you understand the level of magnitude of pressure if you play for the Red Sox, you play for the Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, one of those teams, it's escalated. So you got to understand, like Cody Bellinger now, I still think best interest for Cody is to not go play for a big market team. As far as one of those teams, continue to develop the way that you've developed and show people how good you can be. But I like the path that he's on. We don't know what Sasaki's going to be yet.
No, not at all.
So there's a lot here that we're going to have to figure out. So it's a good point, Zach. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see, but we have a little extra time there in the moment. But again, by the way, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show and Promptu Hot Stove Wednesdays. We're going to start doing this every Wednesday. It's going to become a happy hour hot stove next week after the holiday, where we're going to talk baseball. It's just dedicated to baseball. We have our regular shows Monday and Thursday. And when we have our shows on those days, it's football season. We are mainly covering football. Specifically, we're based out of Baltimore. So we're going to talk about the teams in Baltimore, but we talk about NFL headlines all the time. We like breaking down plays. I mean, hell, Zach, Nick was telling me, it's like, hey, can we go get on Friday just so I can break down some special teams plays or block kicks? And I'm like, well, you're damn right. Let's hope for a block kick between the Lions and the Bears.
Yeah. So everyone hope for block kicks. Just if block kicks happen, we're happy. So
any of that. But anyway, you guys get what we're doing. That there's a lot going on there. And we want to cover more sports. Like, no matter, Brian, like we love basketball. I was watching basketball last night from college basketball, Zach.
Yeah.
Duke, Kansas was electric last night. I would love for the Wizards to be better. They're in a rebuilding period. It's going to take some time. But yes, in this region right now, it's a little bit tough for the basketball world.
Yeah, Maryland basketball. We have Maryland basketball, but yeah, for professional, not the greatest in the region. Not ideal. That's to say the least.
Yeah, you know what? It would just be great if Baltimore had a basketball team again.
Yeah, that would be one day, maybe one day.
But we are getting involved back into colleges. So you talked about Maryland. We have some things going on that we'd like to continue to develop down at the University of Maryland. We also are trying to get our grips down in DC, but as always, we're going to have our connections here with the Baltimore team. So we appreciate you guys. Trying to see if there's any other questions, thoughts before we get on out of here. We had a good hour talking.
Yeah, I think we covered a good bit. Talked about a lot of guys, a lot of different news. I'm looking through if there's anything we missed.
Laura, hey, preach. You know what? I'm sorry you hate your job at times. You know what's that one? Is it All the Small Things? Late night, come home, work sucks. Yeah, I know. We all have those moments.
Yep. All the small things.
All the small things. It's a good song.
Yeah, Terps do play at 4:30 today. Better not lose. That was genuinely, they cannot lose this game. They got I was literally just looking.
The Bucknell Bison, baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is one of those games where the Terps, like in previous years, they'd win this game by 4 somehow. You just gotta keep the foot on the gas. Go, just make it an easy game. Make it an easy game.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just make your dreams come true.
Maryland can make some push for the top 25 if they can just make sure that they don't do no tomfoolery against Bucknell. Just no tomfoolery.
No tomfoolery. All right. I think we got everything here. Yeah, I know it. And Laura, I don't know how I didn't get in the Ludacris commercial. A little bit upset about that.
No, crazy.
When I move, you move, Laura.
Just like that.
Just like that. Eventually, one day. Well, I'll tell you what, this hot stove is heating up. I am sweating my ass off with this sweatshirt. It's been a while, but we appreciate all you guys. On the way out, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll find a way, Rick and others, to get you guys a little bit prepared for Ravens and Eagles. We will plan on doing a pregame show on Sunday. Early, though, because we know when the 1 o'clock games start, people are focused on those. Ravens, Eagles play at 4:25, so it'll be like a get up in the morning with us on Sunday. So we hope to see you guys there on the channel. But above all, have a great Thanksgiving. Be safe. Zach, what are we eating tomorrow? What do you got on the dock? Oh, yeah, it's a turkey bowl tomorrow. Shit.
Yeah, I was going to say turkey bowl. I got my Roll-Ons roll, put it in the background for today.
Oh, my God.
Roll-Ons, baby.
That's what they hang up? That's what you guys hang up?
No, I just found this. I just had to find something to put in the background.
But that's what you guys have is an art, like Roll-Ons roll. That's what you have. Like, it's not.
Yeah, this was in our basement. RDR. This is like probably 12 years old now. But yeah, RDR Roll-Ons winning by 1 million. Don's by 1 million tomorrow. Hall shouldn't even show up. That's all I'm gonna say. Towson University. Be there, be square. I forget the name of. Is that John Unitas Stadium? Is that what it is? John Unitas Stadium. Well, this is crazy. This is just slander in the. You see, Joe doesn't even know what he's saying, and he says it. Joe doesn't even understand what he's saying.
Yeah, we got to get more into some college basketball too. Yeah, that was the thing.
Actually, I had the over in that game, which did not hit. But
it did or didn't?
No, it did not. But it's okay because I had the sweatiest under of all time with the Kansas Duke game, and they scored like 5 points in the final 3.5 minutes, and I hit it by 1. It should have been dead like 10 minutes into the second half. Everyone was just hitting threes. Then suddenly all offense stopped. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of work, and then I think I just fell asleep on the couch. But Auburn was taking it to UNC. Oh, yeah. But UNC came back the day before against Dayton.
UNC made a little bit of a run to make it close, and then immediately Auburn just ran away with it again.
They did.
Yep.
They did. We'll have a lot more of that conversation. Hey, Rick, enjoy the Sirius spread tomorrow. Laura, we are thankful for you. And we have a lot more. As you guys know, the Kevin and Zach Reacts, obviously, when there's reaction, specifically a lot around the Baltimore sports teams right and in the moment. Zach's going live over there, so make sure you guys are subscribed over to there. That's another part of the Ryan Ripken Media, Ryan Ripken Show fam. I think that's it. Oh, Victoria, there she is. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Victoria.
We hope you guys are doing well. So that's all we got. And Shekel, if it's 6 TDs, it's all to Jonnu and Achan.
Yeah, please, Achan, please. Need it bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
Understand. All right. On 3, we're breaking. All right. 3, 2, 1, break. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.